Hello, this is Marc Franklin, and welcome to another Tech Talk. And this is neither a vintage nor a modern Tech Talk, it's somewhere in between. It's going to be talking a bit about digitizing archival footage using older machines and how to get it looking best on your modern device that you're digitizing it on, whether it be into a computer encoder or to a standalone recorder like a Blackmagic Design HyperDeck Studio. So let's get into seeing what makes this all work. Here we have one of my racks full of machines, and over here we have my Panasonic AG7650, which is one of my original video editing players that I bought back in late 1991. It is a higher end Super VHS deck, and one of the things that it has that's very good for playing back tapes is called a time-based corrector. This was something that was invented right about, I guess, when they invented videotape. They needed a way to play back tapes without dropouts or errors, and basically what a time-based corrector does, it digitizes and puts out each frame of video. It basically deconstructs and reconstructs it before sending it out of the time-based corrector into a switcher, which is what they used up until the early 2000s to play back tape to air or for editing videos in post-production. Now all that stuff is done non-linear, so most people who've just recently come up in the industry don't even know what a time-based corrector is, but it was something that was very important. And so there were about 3 different types of time-based correctors within the industry, so to speak. This one is in the middle, so we'll talk about that second. Later on, people were looking for a cheaper way to get stable video, playing it back in the late 90s, early 2000s. So some of the prosumer decks, like this JVC SRV10U, has, you'll notice here, it says digital time-based corrector noise reduction, which I do use when I use this for playing back tapes. Now, we don't normally use this for playing back tapes for digital because it was not a super great deck. It was a lower end deck, but we do keep it around because occasionally I get in really sketchy VHS tapes that I don't want to put into a big expensive machine like this that's difficult to fix. I'll put it into my frontline cannon fodder for poor tapes. But it does help a little bit. This is not a true time-based corrector. It's really what's called a time-based stabilizer, which is mainly just taking one of the functions of a time-based corrector and putting it into a machine, just help with that one function. So if we want to look to a real time-based corrector, this is called what is a line time-based corrector. While this time-based corrector will correct and put out the whole frame, when it comes to things like dropouts, it only works on 3 lines. So if you have too many dropouts, it's going to overload this time-based corrector, in which case you will want to go to a full frame time-based corrector, which is in this machine here. This is my first editing computer, a Commodore A2000. It had my first editing hardware. It had an AMI-Link for deck control and a video toaster. Each input for the video toaster required a time-based corrector. I bought the Panasonic AG7750 and 7650 decks for recording and playback because they had the time-based correctors built into them. Eventually, I bought a standalone time-based corrector, which is actually a card that you can either put into this computer or into a rack mount. They basically called it a pizza box. It was like as thin as a pizza box, but it would hold 2 time-based correctors and you control it from the front panel. The DPS TBC4, which is running in the Amiga over here, is controlled by the software over here. And it has a lot of the same controls here that I have on the front of the SVHS deck. This has even more things you can do with it. So let's look at what you can do on one of the deck-based time-based correctors. Over here you'll see there's video, setup, chroma level, hue. Then you'll have controls you'll use less often, YC delay and system phase. And this is the bypass remote and local switch. Most of the time you'll keep it on local, and you will be adjusting the video levels, the video level setup, chroma, and hue over here. I'm going to play back a tape now, one of my home video tapes, and we'll take a look and see how this works. So this is my niece's first birthday party from about 30 years ago. And you can see here on the vector scope, something also important you want to do, that some of the video levels are a little high. I was just beginning, didn't know everything back then. So none of the video levels should be above 100 IRE. So what you would do, if you saw that your levels were over 100 IRE while you're digitizing a tape, you'd go to the video level and you bring it down. The reason you want to do that is back in the analog broadcast days, over 100 IRE brightness was not legal for broadcast, and you can get a fine for doing that because it would look wrong on the TVs, and all sorts of other problems could be caused by the 100 IRE. Today, when you're digitizing, 100 IRE will be encoded as white. So if you look at something going through my encoder that is over 100 IRE, whatever those pixels are will become just white. Well, sometimes you want to bypass the internal time-based corrector and go for a full frame time-based corrector, which is in the Commodore over here. Most other high-end video decks of the era had full frame time-based correctors in them. Betacam SP decks and some of the later SVHS decks had full frame. My Sony SVP 5600 Super VHS player. I have to weigh which is going to do it better, my Sony or this, but this can take care of some problems that the Sony can't, and the Sony can take care of some things that this can't, so it's good to have both. One of the other things you can do with the time-based corrector is you could do some minor color correction. If you didn't like the way the hue is, you can change that. You can make it more red or pink, but I had it pretty well dialed in the way it was. And if you had a tape that had faded color, you could boost the color levels. Or, you know, if you want to make something black and white, you can pull it all the way down. You see we're in a legal zone here because we're over 100 IRE, so we're going to hit bypass. And we're going to come over here, DPS TBC4 software control, video level. Black, just same as setup on the Panasonic. Chroma level, here you can go up and down. Hue, horizontal position, allows you to save certain settings and call it up. If you want to take a freeze frame, you can take a freeze frame that it makes it from both fields, or you can choose a field, single field. It'll buffer 3 fields, so basically a frame and a half. Film mode gives it kind of a film look. I didn't really like their film look. I made my own, but to each their own. And strobe, real popular in the 90s as an effect to give the music video look. If you go to monochrome, just makes it black and white. Balance brings up a whole other screen where you can do a little bit of color correction here. It's not a lot by today's standard, but back 30 years ago, being able to adjust color like this was a pretty big deal. This is the control where you would click to go back to the video toaster control. You could save your settings for a particular session. For preferences, this is where you choose between your S video YC input, and your composite input. A good reason to have a standalone time-based corrector is because I've got many decks that do not have a time-based corrector. Over here we have another Panasonic Super VHS deck that does not have a time-based corrector, and we mainly use this deck for playing back 6-hour speed VHS and Super VHS tapes. The 7650 only plays the SP speed, the 2-hour speed, and this 7350 plays back the 2-hour speed and the 6-hour speed. Below the 7350 we have our main Super Beta Hi-Fi deck. It's an SLHF 900. It's one of the top of the line decks that was available in the 80s, and a lot of people say it was one of the best decks. You could use it for editing. It had digital PCM audio. It was top of the line. We use this for playing back our Betamax transfers, and we just route it composite into the DPS TBC4 in the computer here, and then it comes out of the time-based corrector as S-video. So that's another improvement and gives you better color separation. And that's something that we also do with our U-matic SP. This VO9800 is one of our 3 U-matic SP decks. We also have a regular U-matic deck. And when we come out of it, we go into the time-based corrector, comes out S-video. It's a nice improvement over the composite, and we digitize it. And we've even done some project where we up-res it to HD. That's been used in film projects, and people just like the look of the way we process it here. For most consumer encoding, we use a Blackmagic Design H.264 Pro recorder, which has HDMI, SDI, and analog inputs. When we up-res things from a standard definition format, will come out of a deck like the U-matic or the Betamax or the VHS SVHS, go into the time-based corrector, then go into one of our Blackmagic Design Teranex processors, which we can use it to up-res to HD or 4K at different whatever frame rates needed, and record that into HyperDeck as the new video standard that was chosen. Here we have our TIAC V800 G-F. It was originally used by the Air Force for looking at reconnaissance video. We use it for transfers. It's been very good for us for that. And I have a whole other video just on this deck if you want to check that out. Down here we have one of our DV cam decks. This is a DSR 1800. It's a higher end broadcast DV cam deck that we sometimes use for DV and DV cam transfers. This does not need a time-based corrector. Reason being is that it's playing back digital video, and digital video does not need a time-based corrector. When I digitize DV, I go SDI out of the machine directly into the encoder. If you had any questions about time-based correctors and why they're important to stabilize video for the archival digitization process, I hope this answers most of your questions and what to look for if you are getting one. Or if you need to send us a video for digitizing, now you know some of our process for doing it, please contact us below. I hope you found the video informative.